live stream today than we normally do. I have expressed hope and optimism that we could start doing more movie reviews on this channel. I actually did record a Space Jam review, A New Legacy, at one point, and during the editing process, I was frankly unhappy with it. I didn't really know what the review was trying to convey. I thought it was a mess. And so I'm going to try a different approach today. I'm going to try an approach where we simply talk about it a little bit. I'll worry about the review style later on. Maybe this video can be edited into its own thing later on. Who knows? But I do want to talk about this movie because boy was a Space Jam 2 or Space Jam: A New Legacies it's actually called. I'm just going to refer to it as Space Jam 2 from this point on. Boy was this bad. This was an extremely bad, extremely unpleasant movie. So insulting, so unnutritious for kids. And as I watched it, I had a thought that I had not had ever since this pandemic started. I watched this movie and I was just scratching my head, like just on how bad it was. And I said, wow, this is so bad, it makes a very, very strong case for the day and date release of HBO Max. I would not recommend anyone waste their money on this. I really wouldn't recommend people waste their time either. But that being said, if HBO Max is an option, I would definitely recommend if you are interested in it, checking it out there. Otherwise, in my opinion, this is pretty awful. And when I wrote my review for the Fandom Post, it got an F grade on my iCritic site and the Leatherboard account, where the review is also published. It has half a star, half star. Now then, some people look at that and they're like, "What is so bad about that? Like half a star? That's basically giving someone a grade just for putting their name on the paper." I mean, it can't be that bad. And you've also got to be overreacting to a certain extent. After all, it's Space Jam. What were you expecting? High art? Were you expecting Oscar-worthy material? I mean, are you one of those people who are deluded into thinking that the original was some great masterpiece? Don't you realize this is a kids' movie? And look, I hear all those arguments. I hear all those concerns. If that's how you want to approach this, you are totally free to do so. From my perspective, it does not matter. But why? Well, let's talk about the first thing that should be pretty obvious, that the original Space Jam is not exactly a good movie. It is a movie I enjoyed to watch. It has a little lightning in a bottle thing that makes it kind of work on why people still watch it, but let's not kid ourselves. It was not a good movie. I mean, the storyline is that Bugs Bunny and the Looney Tunes need to square off against aliens in a basketball game. And to do that, they need the help of Michael Jordan. Yeah, that's the story. And when you really stop and think about it, you realize how silly this is. Heck, you realize it's even more silly that it's a feature length film, not a short. As Chuck Jones said, Bugs Bunny would not need the other Looney Tunes to get rid of these aliens. And he certainly didn't need an hour and a half to do it. He could get rid of the aliens in about 5 to 7 minutes, and he would still make it humorous. And keep in mind, Chuck Jones directed many of the classic Looney Tunes shorts. What's more, Space Jam was not necessarily inspired because this was just a great idea. It's because Nike made some Michael Jordan Air Jordan commercials. You know those Air Jordan shoes that used to be really popular in the 90s? I don't know if they still make them anymore, to be honest. But those Air Jordan shoes, like, um, they needed to advertise them. So they would have Michael Jordan advertising them, of course. And Michael Jordan would do it with Bugs Bunny, and the pair seemed to work. It sold shoes. As a result, Michael Jordan, Bugs Bunny were made advertising partners in crime, and they would sell things like Sprint telephone services and things like that. And these commercials were so popular that Space Jam became a thing. And when you really realize that Space Jam was basically inspired by a commercial, you realize how little artistic integrity was behind that film. Now, why did I say it captured lightning in a bottle and could still be a little enjoyable? Well, here's the thing. Even though Space Jam was not a good movie per se, it had things in it that worked. Bugs Bunny and Michael Jordan, ironically, do have good chemistry together. Michael Jordan, even though he's playing himself, acted like had a natural talent on the screen. Bill Murray was pretty darn funny. The mix of live action and animation was probably the best that that combination had been since Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And, it's probably been the best since. These hand drawn live action hybrids are not easy to make. And the fact that so few movies look convincing in how the live actors and the animated characters interact with one another is a testament to how difficult it is. And interestingly, Space Jam is one of those movies that kind of worked with that mold, with that melting. I know that some people are going to think like, well, movies like Cool World existed, yet they didn't do it as good as Space Jam. I mean, yeah, it existed. It wasn't very effective. And then there was the music. That soundtrack for Space Jam, I still listen to once in a while, all these years later. And you know what? I know the singer and the songwriter is not exactly a good person, but I Believe I Can Fly is probably one of the great movie songs of all time. Add to the fact that Space Jam created this perfect little time capsule into the 90s, the same way the Breakfast Club did for the 80s. And while Space Jam is not a good movie, you can understand why it continues to hold influence on the world of cinema. A lot of people grew up liking it, and even though it's not on a whole a good movie, there are a lot of elements of that movie that really work. Now, of course, Warner Brothers had been trying to make a sequel to Space Jam for a long time, and when Michael Jordan said no, they tried many other concepts. They were going to do Spy Jam with Jackie Chan, Skate Jam with Tony Hawk, even Golf Jam with Tiger Woods. Personally, of all of those, I wanted to see the Jackie Chan one. I think that would have been awesome. But for whatever reason, none of them really came together, and they ended up making Looney Tunes Back in Action, a movie I quite like. And in fact, I think that was a better big screen adventure for the Looney Tunes than Space Jam was in so many different ways. But it was not marketed very well. People did not fall in love with it. Brendan Fraser is certainly no Michael Jordan. Even I think they're both kind of limited actors, to be perfectly honest. And, it didn't have those iconic songs, and the combination of animation and live action wasn't as seamless. So that was a big bomb, and basically the Looney Tunes were not going to be coming back on screen unless they did another Space Jam. Now, they finally announced that they were going to do another Space Jam, and they got LeBron James to star in it. Now, I have read a lot of people claim that they did not like LeBron James very much. They felt an actor he should not be. And I'm going to say this because I actually think uh, LeBron James is actually one of the few good things about this movie. I understand where some of them are coming from. He does not have the presence of Michael Jordan. That said, he's very likable at the same time. I know that some people don't like him because, and I don't really know what the situation is. I mean, I have friends, mostly conservative, I should mention, that do not like him and actually say they do not watch games that he's in because of things he has said. And being an overpaid athlete, I'm certain he said something legitimately stupid. I don't know exactly what it is, but if he sucks in real life as a person, I can totally believe it because he's a millionaire. Millionaires just tend to suck. But in this movie, LeBron James is fine. He's likable. He draws attention to you. And I think the weird thing is the only reason LeBron James doesn't shine more than Michael Jordan is because, interestingly, the way the movie is made doesn't allow him to shine more. But hey, I like I liked him. I mean, yeah, some people point out, oh, he's such a jerk in this movie, though. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, that's actually kind of nice. He has like a story arc. Like, I mean, I have to give LeBron credit for saying, like, yeah, you know what I'm going to do in my essentially acting debut because Trainwreck doesn't count really, in my opinion. I'm going to play myself as a jerk who will not listen to his son so that I can be a good guy at the end and basically learn a lesson. That is fine. And you know what? Even though he was kind of a jerk, I like the relationship with his wife and his other kids. I mean, this is actually one of the few movies I've seen that shows father and son relationships in a mostly positive manner, even though LeBron himself it needs to learn a lesson. So you know what? I'm going to give credit where credit is due, and I think LeBron is fine. But it's the whole concept of this film, and it's the rest of the movie where the whole thing just falls so flat on its face. So anyway, the story of Space Jam: A New Legacy is that LeBron James is the greatest basketball player in the world, and he got that way because as a kid, his coach convinced him that he could be the greatest person he could be. But he was never going to be the greatest he could be if he wasted time on things like video games and other childish things. And basically, since being a kid, LeBron was hyper focused on his basketball career. And you know what? I got to give the movie at least this much credit. The coach is absolutely right. This is like one of the reasons why most people do not become celebrities and don't become stars. This is why I am not the next Roger Ebert, because it takes a lot of work and dedication, and you have to give up quite a bit in your pursuit for that dream job. Yes, I could have kept right. I mean, I still write and I still publish for other news publications and stuff like that, but to be the next Leonard Maltin or something like that. I mean, the amount of time you have to put into it, you have to start saying no to friends, you have to start saying no to family. If you want to be a superstar athlete, you are training all the time, you are playing all the time. There are athletes who, when they're asked about their childhood, all they do is they talk about how much they practice and the encouragement they got from their teachers. And you don't hear them talking about, I used to hang out with my friends at the mall on Saturday. No, because they were practicing. Same thing with actors. Actors are always working, songwriters are always songwriting. And, I thought this was actually a pretty good opening to the movie. This is also why I forgive the fact that LeBron is not exactly the greatest father in the world to his son, because let's face it, he had such a business oriented mindset growing up that, of course, he is going to encourage his own son to have it. Now, where he's wrong is that he's, of course, pushing his son to play basketball because that's what he likes to do, but that's not necessarily what his son wants to do. And I actually liked when his son told his dad, you're the reason I hate basketball now. Because there are things, I'm not going to say which things, but there are things that I maybe started having an interest in. And then, because a parental figure or something acted a certain way, I just looked at that thing and I hated it. In fact, I'm even going to like share an example. For the longest time, and you might find this to be really funny, I was camera shy. I hated having my picture taken. I did not like it. And the reason I did not like it is because I have a hard time smiling. I know, big shock, right? Big shock. But we go on vacation, and every time we'd be time to take a family picture, my dad would say, "Smile, Kevin, smile. You're not smiling." And every picture would start taking 5 minutes. And it was pretty clear after a while I was the bad guy. And I even remember very clearly it was at a Disneyland one day. My dad was trying to take a picture of me and my brother. And I think he said, "Smile, smile, smile." At one point, my mom even said, "He doesn't," it's like, you know what? It's good enough. He's like, "No, no, no. It needs to be a better smile." And I snapped. I said, "I do not want to take a picture anymore." And until I met my wife, I pretty much did not take pictures anymore. That's also why, by the way, if you go back to the first couple of years of this YouTube channel, you don't see me because I didn't want to be on camera. You could hear me, but I did not want to be on camera. And so my dad, even though he will not admit it, and he has stated many times, I do not accept responsibility for Kevin not liking pictures. No, no, no. I mean, Dad, if you're watching this, love you. Totally moved on from this, but just let you know, you are the reason I did not like taking pictures. But so that scene in A Space Jam: A New Legacy really resonated. So for the first 10 minutes, this is not bad. This is all working out. It's like, okay, you've got likable main character who has some flaws, but he can overcome those flaws. You have father and son relationship. Okay, we can work with this. Then LeBron is brought to Warner Brothers, and he is showed the Warner 3000, a computer where an algorithm will take a famous person and can put them into any property and basically fart out a movie. That is what this movie ends up being about. Now, LeBron, to his credit, says this is just a straight up bad idea. There's also a crack that, athletes should not actually act. And yeah, that's pretty funny. But then he goes out of the meeting, follows his son into the basement because the algorithm leads them to the big supercomputer. And Al G. Rhythm, who's played by Don Cheadle, tells LeBron that he has captured his son. And guess what? You are going to play me in a game of basketball. And of course, LeBron goes like, "You want to play me in a game of basketball?" And Al G. Rhythm is like, "You didn't want to be in the movies, and you are not going to play by my rules." And he sends LeBron to where the losers are, which there's been some comments like, because the losers is Toon World. Like, is this what Warner Brothers thinks of the Looney Tunes? I don't know. I mean, personally, he's a bad guy. Bad guys are not necessarily nice. I'm not going to look too deep into that one. But now LeBron is going through the Warner 3000 supercomputer, and now this is where the movie just like totally tanks. He's going through Game of Thrones for no reason, Harry Potter for no reason, DC Comics for no reason. He's going through all these Warner Brother properties that have nothing to do with the Looney Tunes. Now, when he lands in Toon World, which is where the Looney Tunes are, he falls into a crack in the hole, which is shaped like a Nike logo. It was like, we get it, corporate sponsorship. And then comes the next 5 to 10 minutes, which is probably the best part of the whole movie, for being completely honest, where LeBron James is now a fully animated character and now gets into some cartoon shenanigans with Bugs Bunny, who like chases him in the truck, hands him the dynamite. LeBron gets flattened. And I don't entirely know why they decided to animate LeBron instead of put him in the animated world like they did with Michael Jordan. Maybe LeBron was not able to act with a cartoon character the same way Michael Jordan could, and as a result, they decided to just make those scenes fully animated. I don't know. It would make perfect sense, but you know what? It was by far the only good part of the movie. And so after this little section where LeBron explains to Bugs at the end that he needs to play a computer AI in basketball, they go to collect the Looney Tunes characters. And the Looney Tunes characters are, again, the Foghorn Leghorn is in Game of Thrones. Granny and Speedy Gonzales is in The Matrix. Apparently, the Tasmanian Devil was hanging out with Rick and Morty. And it just starts getting super, super cynical at this point because it's like, my goodness, is this like a movie? Like, are we actually supposed to be getting a joke out of this, or is this Warner Brothers basically selling us HBO Max, which would make sense because it's on HBO Max now? But they are interacting with properties that have nothing to do with the Looney Tunes, nothing to do with basketball, nothing to do with the story that is going on. And for that matter, I don't know how I feel about Rick and Morty having actual lines of dialogue and interacting with the Looney Tunes, because if you are watching this HBO Max, guess what's on HBO Max? Rick and Morty. Are kids able to watch Rick and Morty? No, they shouldn't watch Rick and Morty. And yet they are being advertised to kids. So I don't even know how I feel about not only the properties being there for no reason, but them being mostly R-rated properties to begin with. So once the Looney Tunes come together, and by the way, I'm just pointing this out, I don't know why Zendaya was Lola Bunny. I take an especially bad impression and offense, I should say, to Zendaya being a top billed character in the credits for being Lola Bunny when the people who voice the Looney Tunes characters themselves don't get top billing credit. I have major issues with that, but that's Hollywood for you, right? So I guess he's fine. But then all the characters come together, and the whole problem is that LeBron, who's so business oriented, wants to do basketball by the books, and the Looney Tunes just want to be loony and they just want to have fun because, like, I guess we did that before. I don't know. Like, I don't remember like the Looney Tunes not being loony being the issue in the first movie. They just didn't have any self-confidence in themselves. But yeah, for LeBron to basically tell the Looney Tunes not to be the Looney Tunes, like that's I don't know, that's a strange direction to go with this movie, I suppose. But then the game of basketball starts, and this is actually where the movie really truly falls apart, where I just stopped giving two craps altogether. Because the basketball itself doesn't make any sense. I don't like basketball, but I know how basketball is played, and I know how it's pointed, how it's scored. The basketball in this movie, I don't even know how the scoring works, to be perfectly honest. There's all these bonus points. There's super big rounds. There's that little diss track thing with Porky Pig rapping that I'm sure you've seen the commercials, and it's much, much worse in the movie than you could have imagined. Like, I have no idea how the scoring works. Therefore, I cannot be invested in the game. Also, the game players that they are playing against, we have no concept for who they are. I mean, sure, the Monstars were not great characters per se, but you understood who they were and what their relation to the story was. The Goon Squad, I think is what they were called. I don't know who the heck they are. They're just random characters with superpowers. And again, making it so that basketball is played like anything but basketball. In fact, it is so off the cuff basketball. I don't even know why you would have a real athlete not paying, playing when the rules of physics don't even matter. And then you have the audience. This is where Warner Brothers just threw the whole kitchen sink at the movie. You have the Animaniacs in there. You have the Iron Giant, Hanna-Barbera characters. You have the Drooges from A Clockwork Orange, although Pepe Le Pew's not in it, so you know. You have multiple versions of the Joker. You have Mr. Freeze. You have Pennywise the Clown. You've got so many different characters in the audience, and because the basketball game was so uninteresting, I actually started focusing more on who was in the audience than what was actually happening in the game itself. But then, of course, as you look at that, you realize, well, why is this a Looney Tunes movie? Just because it was Space Jam, why can't Yakko, Wacko, and Dot join the team? Like, they've probably got something to offer the team. Why can't they do something crazy? Like, if they're going to be like doing special points and special bonus rounds, why can't they have summons like in video games and summon the Iron Giant to do something crazy? I mean, you could have a lot more fun with this than they did. I don't know if it would have been any better, and it might have been just as equally corporate, but if you're going to do this, you might as well do something with them. This should not feel like a billboard for better things I could be watching. And then, of course, after a little bit of a pep talk from a certain MJ, which I will not spoil because it's actually a really funny joke. The Looney Tunes when LeBron shoots the winning point and he surprises his son by sending him to, the E3 gaming camp. And at the end, it was like, wow, that was 2 hours gone. It felt like 2.5, but it was 2 hours. Now, the first Space Jam movie, I think, was like 96 minutes. It was like pretty reasonable, all things considering. But to do this for 2 hours, it kind of felt like playing Sonic Unleashed, where it's like, the running Sonic stages were really, really fun, but then the Werehog stages were really boring and really bad, and yet the Werehog stages dragged on for 10, 15, sometimes a half hour, and it's like, well, now you're just adding insult to injury because not only is this not fun, but it's going on forever as well. And that's Space Jam: A New Legacy. It's so soulless and so corporate that it's embarrassing to watch. You know, I I kind of gave a little bit of a pass to Ready Player One because it was about something else. I kind of get understand what I gave a little bit of a pass, I should say, for Ralph Breaks the Internet because again, there was something else going on. But the thing is, both these movies are starting to concern me because it's like, okay, yeah, you're just starting to take a bunch of things that people know about and you're putting them all into one movie, but you know, just because you recognize it doesn't mean it has anything to do with anything. In fact, I compared Space Jam: A New Legacy to Ralph Breaks the Internet more because I made a fairly grotesque, but I think pretty accurate analogy in that review, where I said, if watching a movie like Frozen or Moana is watching Disney artists create art and timeless entertainment that is meant to be enjoyed by people of all ages, then Ralph Breaks the Internet is watching Disney masturbate. Like, that's Disney going like, look at what we own. We own Star Wars. We own Marvels. Remember all the Disney princesses? Here they are in one room. And remember how much you love them. Look at us. We are Disney. We are great. But it didn't mean anything. The stuff that people remember from Ralph Breaks the Internet is not that. It's actually, most people say it's Penelope's song. But now you have Space Jam: A New Legacy, and they not only took that concept, they expanded on it so horribly. Like, this is nothing but corporate selling. It's just look at what we own, look at what you can buy from us, look at what you can watch. Hey, you're watching us on HBO Max? Well, afterwards, go watch something else. Look at all this stuff that we own. And none of it has anything to do with the story, none of it enhances anything. It's just Warner Brothers bragging about what they have created in the past. And it's embarrassing and it's sad. And I look around, it's like everyone deserved better. Malcolm D. Lee, the director, he's a good director. His Girls' Night was a very funny movie. He should not be wasting his time on this dreck. LeBron James may be a limited actor, but he's got charisma and he seems likable. So he should be in a better movie. And the Looney Tunes characters, I mean, I am so sick and tired of the Looney Tunes characters basically being brought up just to sell something. Like, why can't the Looney Tunes be in a good show again? Like, I mean, I enjoyed the Looney Tunes show. I mean, I know some people didn't, and that was like over 10 years ago, but why can't the Looney Tunes be in shorts again? Like, why are they only in commercials? And this is like the worst commercial of them all. And it's the only movie that I could honestly say deserved to have a day and date release because with this much selling, like this being this much of a commercial, I just have to say Space Jam: A New Legacy is the worst kind of commercial, and people should not pay for it if they don't have to. So, anyway, I've now discussed this for 30 minutes, and like I said, I don't know what the reviews in the future are going to look like. Again, I tried to record a review, but I was not happy with it. So now we are just discussing the movie, and I know took about a half an hour, but hopefully you understand. We'll see if we can't make it a little shorter going forward because I've now spent 28 minutes talking about this movie. I think that is 23 minutes too long. I think the best thing I can say about Space Jam: A New Legacy is don't waste your time, especially if you are one of these middle-aged people who were kids when Space Jam came out. You know what? Your time is running out. Don't waste it on movies like this. And if you are a kid, you know what? You've got your whole life ahead of you. You don't need to be spending your childhood watching movies like this. So that's where I'm going to leave this one. I would like to know what you thought about not only this discussion of ours, but the movie itself. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one. Now, watch me reach over as I end this live stream.